Welcome to the Riding Center and Flex Tree Saddlery.
I'll give you a little background on the Riding Center just so you know the depth of our experience. We've been operating a multi-discipline riding center for 35 years here in Freeburg, Illinois, and we participate in the following events. We do cutting, we do reining, we do working cow horse, general ranch work. We also do dressage, jumping, and our favorite, endurance racing. So we do a lot of disciplines, and over the years we've had issues with saddles. So we're starting our own little saddle revolution. In effect, we've developed a saddle tree and a saddle that fits the horse and rider in a manner that offers greater security and safety, where you're riding in and not on your saddle. You'll be able to move with your horse. The elements that we want to discuss here in the tree are the ability of the bars, and the bars are the connected material from the front to the back of your saddle, and those bars are made of a polyurea material that has memory. Not only does it flex, but it goes back to its original shape. This is key in making your horse comfortable, because the problem with a rigid tree, one that does not flex or move with your horse, is that it puts a pressure point in the very front and a pressure point in the rear, and there's actually space. You can see this here. There's space underneath, and that effect puts pressure on the 2 points in the front and the rear, and that is called bridging. So you want to make sure you eliminate bridging. If any of you are Western fans, you'll probably have read some of the Western Horseman series books. If you look at some of the legends that they describe, they all have little white spots on their withers. That's scar tissue from excessive pressure from a saddle tree that does not move with the horse. Fortunately, today we have materials that flex. The polyurea material that we're using today allows for the front, the pommel, and the rear of the cantle to move. Gullet width is attained by putting pressure from the rider's seat here on the bars, and the front of the saddle actually rises or falls with the motion of the horse. And I'll turn sideways here and you can see that concept a little bit better this way. And with a minimum of arm pressure, I'm able to bend that saddle just about to the degree that a horse will use when he's either cantering or trotting. And it moves diagonally with the trotting gaits too. So this is the basic effect that you need to have on your horse to eliminate bridging and pressure points. In addition to gullet width and the similar width in the rear of your saddle, one of the other issues that we've addressed is we've developed a bar that is not quite a full quarter horse length, nor is it as extremely short as an Arab bar. It's a little bit in between, and we found that that suits most of today's very athletic horses. Your endurance riding Arabs, today the modern cutter and reiner, they all have a little bit shorter back than horses of old, and this length bar is critical to keeping that ability of the saddle to sit down on the horse's back. That makes you more secure. Therefore, you're sitting in the saddle and not just on the saddle. You'll be able to move with the motion of your horse. Alrighty, we now have a all-purpose model here for you to view, and this saddle is suitable for trail riding, for starting colts, or for endurance racing. We've left the horn off for safety. The only time you really need a horn is if you're going to rope something. Other than that, it can even get in the way of your reining. Other features that we've included on this saddle is we have a suede seat. This helps provide just a little extra grip for you. Underneath the suede, we have a foam material called Poron. It has an excellent density, and it also rebounds and takes back its original shape just like the bars do. It's extremely comfortable. It's an all-day saddle. You'll never get fatigued riding in this. Also, if you look at the seat, you'll see that it's practically level. And that's another feature. It's called a leather ground seat. Underneath the foam and the suede, we have leather, and it is very nearly level. And when you sit in this saddle with the flexible bars, you'll see that it puts you in just about a level position. This is as close to bareback as you can get. You can't quite get bareback with any saddle, but of all the saddles on the market today, this gets you as close as you possibly can. Our stirrups, we have two adjustments on those. One is for the length of the stirrup, and the other is for the length of the stirrup fender. Additionally, we have a swivel where the stirrup is mounted, placing the stirrup slightly forward of where the conventional double rig saddles are. And this puts you in a position where you're a little closer once again to the natural bareback position. And it really allows you to move your leg forward or backward quite easily because of this swivel and where it's mounted. You can cue your horse and use your leg aids in a much more efficient manner. We've also included with this saddle a pair of bucking rolls. These tend to function similar to the thigh pads that you'll find in an Aussie saddle. These were actually used 100 or 200 years ago by cowboys on ranches out in the Nevada or California area, the old vaquero style. They used a slick fork, meaning a pommel that had no swells. They use these instead of a swell fork, and it tends to put the padding in an area where it's a little more convenient for you to bump up against in the event your horse goes left, right, or stops too quickly. It's a good security feature, and we certainly recommend that you acquire these with your saddle. They're color coordinated to match the suede on your seat. All our leather is vegetable tanned leather. We use all brass screws and fittings. We found that the quality of some of the stainless and galvanized products is not satisfactory. We use an in-skirt rigging. Your in-skirt rigging places you in your saddle on the horse's back in what we call a 7/8 to 3/4 position. A full double rig would come down here in the front. This is slightly back, which makes your saddle come just a little bit further forward. And normally you'd be a little leery of that because it could then cause a little pinching in your horse's shoulders, but since our bars are flexible and move, you don't have that problem. Just a couple other last little features that we'd like to point out is that all of our rigging is in-skirt rigging, and it's backed up with rawhide so that it'll never pull out or break on you. Also, our breast collar loops, we don't use a buckle or a fixture that rivets into the saddle. This is actually cut into the skirting and backed up with rawhide. It'll last forever. We also place a ring in the rear of the saddle for you to tie a crupper off, and we always recommend that people acquire that. That way you have a saddle you can go uphill, downhill, and you're totally secure. This is a saddle that you sit in and not on. You're placed in the center of the saddle, which puts you in the center of your horse's motion. It allows you to time the motion of your horse's movements, whether you're trotting or cantering. In our next segment, we'll show you how the uncovered tree fits on a horse's back with a rider on it, and then we'll also show you how the finished model sits on the horse's back. And then after that, we'll give you a little riding demonstration to show you how the saddle works in motion, which is the real key. It doesn't really matter that much how the saddle fits when your horse is standing still. If it doesn't move with your horse, it won't fit during his normal range of motion. And that's what we are most proud of with our saddle. This saddle moves with your horse, and it puts you in a position to move with your horse also. You're in this saddle. You're not up above it, and you're not behind it. Therefore, you're with the motion of your horse. It's the most secure and safe seat you can possibly have when mounted.